The great palace of the Valorians stood like a mountain of steel and crystal above the capital world of Xeron. Towers reached into the clouds, and banners of the Empire drifted proudly in the winds. It was here that Queen Zera ruled, a figure of strength, fear, and beauty to her people. For centuries, the Valorians had been locked in endless war against the Carrick Swarm, a race of mindless destroyers that devoured whole worlds. Every battle pushed the Empire closer to ruin, yet the Queen never faltered. She was the heart of her people, but even hearts could bleed. The last battle had been costly. The Swarm had pushed deep into Valorian space, and on the crimson plains of Mirrodin, Queen Zera herself had led her army. Her war armor, a relic older than most star systems, had carried her through the storm. It was called the Eternal Veil, a massive exosuit of black alloy and golden runes, once said to be blessed by the stars themselves. No soldier could stand against it. No weapon could pierce it. With it, the Queen was unstoppable. Until that day, a blast from a Carrick siege beast struck her directly. The Eternal Veil shuddered, sparks raining as systems shut down. The armor cracked, alarms wailed, and Zera was thrown to the ground. Her soldiers fought desperately to drag her back to safety, losing hundreds in the attempt. She lived, but the armor did not. Now the Queen stood inside the palace hall, staring at the broken frame of the Eternal Veil. Its chest plate was split open, its limbs twisted, its power core nearly dead. The engineers of her people had worked without pause, yet nothing they tried could heal the sacred machine. One Valorian engineer, his scales dull with exhaustion, knelt before her. "My queen," he said with a trembling voice, "we have tried every method. The conduits will not align. The alloy refuses fusion. The armor cannot be restored." The court fell silent. Even to suggest such a thing was dangerous. The Eternal Veil was more than armor. It was a symbol of the Empire's strength, a sign that their queen was unbreakable. Without it, fear would spread faster than the Swarm. Queen Zera's crimson eyes narrowed. Her voice was calm but edged with iron. "Are you telling me," she said slowly, "that the Empire has no hands skilled enough to mend what has guarded me for centuries?" The engineer lowered his head in shame. "Yes, my queen. Not even our greatest minds can touch its heart." Murmurs rose through the court. Some whispered of despair. Others spoke of tradition, saying the armor must not be touched by unworthy hands. But the Queen raised her gauntleted fist, silencing them. She did not rage, though the fire in her eyes burned hotter than any flame. "Then bring me new hands," she ordered. "If Valor cannot heal the veil, then I will see if another can." Her command echoed through the palace, and soon messages were sent across every star system under her rule. Captives, slaves, allies, mercenaries, anyone with knowledge of machines was summoned to the capital. Days later, the Great Hall was filled with dozens of alien engineers. Some were tall and insect-like, with eyes like mirrors. Others were scaled, feathered, or covered in fur. Each carried tools, knowledge, and pride in their craft. Guards watched them carefully as they examined the Eternal Veil. Among them, unnoticed, was a single human. His name was Marcus Hale. He wore a plain gray uniform, the mark of a low-born worker. His dark hair was unkempt, his hands scarred from years of labor. To the Valorians, he was nothing special, just another frail human, a species often dismissed as weak. He had been taken years ago, captured when the Empire expanded near Earth's colonies. Since then, he had worked in maintenance bays, repairing broken parts the Valorian engineers considered beneath their time. Marcus did not complain. He kept his head down, listened, learned, and watched. Humans were good at watching. Now he stood at the edge of the hall, staring at the shattered armor of the Queen. His heart beat faster. To him, the Eternal Veil was not just a relic. It was a puzzle, a broken machine begging to be understood. He could see stress lines in the alloy, poorly balanced weight in the frame, and wiring that looked far too fragile for a warsuit. He noticed details the other engineers overlooked because they were blinded by tradition and fear. One insectoid engineer clicked its mandibles. "The fusion conduits are sacred. They cannot be altered. Without the original parts, this machine is useless," a scaled alien hissed. "The alloy is bonded to ancient runes. Only Valorian hands can touch them." Others nodded in agreement. They saw only impossibility. Marcus, however, saw opportunity. He stepped closer when no one was watching, running his fingers lightly along a broken joint. The metal was strong, yes, but brittle in places. The energy conduits were elegant but lacked redundancy. One failure had doomed the entire system. To Marcus, it was clear. The eternal veil was powerful, but it was also fragile. Humans understood fragility better than most. They built machines to survive failure. They designed for the worst, not the best. And Marcus knew he could fix this if only he was given the chance. The Queen entered, her presence silencing the hall. She walked slowly, her tall form commanding every eye. Even without her armor, she radiated power. The broken eternal veil stood behind her like a wounded beast. She looked over the gathered engineers. "Which of you will give my armor back to me?" she asked. Her voice carried through the chamber like thunder. Silence followed. No one dared speak. Some lowered their heads ashamed. Others pretended to study their tools. None wished to risk failure before the Queen. And in that silence, Marcus stepped forward. His voice was steady, though his hands trembled slightly. "I can," he said, every head turned. The court gasped. Guards reached for their weapons. A human, a slave, claiming he could restore the Queen's sacred war armor? It was madness, one Valorian general snarled. "This worm dares speak? Throw him out before he defiles the veil with his touch." But the Queen raised her hand, stopping them. Her crimson eyes locked on Marcus, studying him with curiosity. "You claim you can do what my greatest minds cannot?" she asked. Marcus swallowed, but he did not bow. He looked straight at her. "I don't claim," he said softly. "I know it's broken but not dead. You've all been trying to heal it like it's holy, but it's a machine. Machines don't care about sacred rules. They care about balance, structure, and flow. If you let me work, I can bring it back." The hall filled with whispers. Some shouted for his punishment. Others laughed at his foolishness. But Queen Zara did not laugh. She studied the human as though seeing him for the first time. Her lips curved into a faint smile, though her voice remained sharp. "Very well," she said. "Let the human touch the armor. If he fails, his life is forfeit. If he succeeds—" She paused, her gaze like fire on his face. "Then perhaps the Empire has underestimated his kind." Marcus bowed his head once, not in fear but in determination. This was his chance, perhaps his only one. He would not waste it. And so the story of the Warborn began. The great hall of the palace emptied slowly after the Queen's command. The alien engineers left in silence, their pride wounded, their faces full of anger and disbelief. None of them could accept that a mere human had been chosen to attempt what they themselves had failed to do. Marcus Hale stood alone near the broken war armor. Its frame towered above him, glowing faintly with dying energy. The eternal veil looked less like a weapon and more like a wounded beast, heavy and silent in the shadows of the hall. Guards surrounded him, their spears pointed at his chest. Their expressions showed no respect, only suspicion. To them, he was not an engineer, but a fragile outsider who dared to speak out of turn. Queen Zara remained seated upon her throne of crystal and steel. Her crimson eyes never left Marcus. Her voice was low, but it carried across the chamber. "You will have your chance, human. Fail and you will be erased. Succeed and—" She paused, her gaze sharp as a blade. "We will see." Marcus bowed his head slightly. He did not thank her, for he knew the Queen was not granting him mercy but testing his courage. Words meant little. Only work would speak for him now. The first touch that night, Marcus was escorted to a workshop built beneath the palace. It was a vast chamber filled with tools, energy conduits, and alien devices he had never seen before. The eternal veil stood at the center, chained upright like a prisoner. Its chestplate hung open, exposing wires and shattered conduits that sparked weakly. Two Valorian engineers waited nearby. They were ordered to watch Marcus, not to help him. Their eyes were cold, their bodies tense. One of them hissed, "Touch the wrong rune, human, and it will destroy you." Marcus ignored the threat. He walked slowly around the armor, his eyes scanning every detail. His fingers traced the damaged metal, careful not to disturb anything yet. To him, machines always spoke a silent language. The eternal veil was no different. Its surfaces told a story, where stress had bent its joints, where energy had burned its wires, where neglect had left weakness unpatched for centuries. The Valorians had treated this armor like a sacred relic. They polished it, prayed over it, and preserved its traditions. But they had not listened to it. Marcus listened. He found cracked support beams that could have been reinforced, He found conduits designed to carry too much power without backup. He saw cooling systems that were elegant but fragile. It was powerful, yes, but to his human eyes it was also deeply flawed. The work begins. Marcus picked up a simple tool from the table. It was not the finest device in the room, but it was familiar. A udder. The great hall of the Valorian palace was silent after Marcus Hale stepped forward. The eternal veil now gleamed under the bright lights, its systems alive and humming with renewed energy. Soldiers, nobles, and engineers crowded around, whispering among themselves. All eyes, however, remained on the human who dared touch the sacred armor. Queen Zera's crimson eyes burned with curiosity. She had watched Marcus work for days, observing the precision, intelligence, and courage in his actions. Though she seldom trusted outsiders, she could not deny the truth. The armor was not only repaired but improved. It was stronger, faster, and more stable than it had ever been. Yet tradition ran deep in the Empire, and many would not accept the word of a human. "No matter the evidence, I need proof," Zera said finally, her voice calm but sharp. "If this armor is to serve me in battle, I must test it, and I will not do so alone." The Queen's challenge. The Queen summoned her generals and high-ranking engineers. "I will don the armor," she declared, "and you will spar against me. Marcus, you will observe and ensure that the armor functions perfectly. If it fails, the consequences will be yours alone." The generals bristled at the idea of sparring with their queen, a living legend among their people. Many hesitated, refusing to risk humiliation or injury. Yet Zera's command left no room for argument. One by one, the warriors stepped forward, wielding energy blades, plasma staffs, and kinetic shields. Marcus stood at the side, tools and repair devices ready, though he knew he would not touch the armor unless it was truly necessary. He observed every joint, every conduit, every line of energy flowing through the eternal veil. First strike. The first general lunged, swinging a plasma blade with deadly speed. The armor moved as if alive, responding instantly. Its servos hummed, joints flexing with perfect balance. Zera dodged and countered effortlessly, her movements precise, fluid, and deadly. The crowd gasped. Even the most skeptical engineers whispered among themselves. The armor, repaired by a human, performed better than they had believed possible. Marcus watched carefully. Small sparks flickered from one joint, a minor overheating issue that could worsen under prolonged stress. He jotted notes quickly, knowing he could adjust the conduits later. For now, the Queen's skill combined with his repairs was enough to prove the point. A series of challenges, one general after another attacked. Each strike was met with the armor's new resilience. It moved faster, the energy shields activated more smoothly, and the reinforced joints flexed under pressure without faltering. The Queen laughed occasionally, a sound that sent shivers through the hall. Marcus noticed subtle improvements he had made. The fail-safes he added diverted excess energy to prevent overload. The extra reinforcements absorbed shocks that would have previously crippled the armor. And the routing of power through multiple conduits ensured that even if one system failed, the Queen would not be left vulnerable. As the sparring continued, some generals began to falter. They had underestimated the combination of the Queen's skill and the human's ingenuity. Humiliation and fear crept into their faces. One young officer, barely trained, attempted a quick strike at the armor's leg. He was easily deflected, thrown back several feet by the armor's strength. The hall erupted in murmurs. The eternal veil was not just repaired, it was enhanced. The Queen observes Marcus. During a brief pause, the Queen removed her helmet, her crimson eyes scanning the hall. She spotted Marcus standing quietly, observing every movement, ready to intervene if necessary. Her lips curved in approval. Few had ever held her attention this way. Humans were small, fragile, and weak, yet here was one who had done more than any Valorian engineer could hope to achieve. "You?" she said, pointing to him. "You have changed the armor in ways I did not think possible. Are you certain it will hold under battle?" Marcus nodded. "It will, my Queen. There may be minor issues under extreme stress, but nothing that will fail in a real fight. I've reinforced every weak point I could find." Zera considered this. Few engineers ever spoke with such confidence. Most kowtowed or whispered half-truths, afraid of the consequences of being wrong. Marcus's courage, combined with his knowledge, made her respect him. The final test. The Queen decided it was time for the ultimate test. She summoned the palace's war droids, sleek machines designed for lethal combat. They were programmed for speed, strength, and relentless attack. Even the Valorian generals knew the droids could overwhelm ordinary soldiers easily. The hall filled with mechanical whirs, and the droids advanced. Zira donned the fully repaired Eternal Veil, her movements now faster, sharper, and more precise than ever. Marcus observed the systems carefully, noting power flow, joint response, and energy shielding. The first droid lunged. The armor flexed and absorbed the strike, diverting kinetic energy through reinforced plating. Sparks flew, but the armor held. Marcus's enhancements worked perfectly. Droid after droid attacked. Each was met with the Queen's skill, and the armor's improved design. The human's additions made the difference. Where a standard Valorian repair might have faltered, Marcus's work allowed the armor to adapt dynamically, redistributing energy and withstanding impacts that should have shattered it. Whispers of admiration. The palace hall erupted in quiet murmurs. Engineers, generals, and soldiers alike were astonished. Some could not believe that a human had repaired the armor so well. Many whispered that the Queen had chosen wisely. Others, still proud and stubborn, refused to acknowledge it openly. Queen Zera fought through the droids effortlessly, her every move precise. She paused in front of Marcus at one point, letting him see her victory. Her eyes, usually sharp with command, now held a hint of warmth. "You have done well," she said softly. "This armor is more than restored. It is stronger than ever." Marcus inclined his head. "Thank you, my queen. I only followed what I could see." "Machines, like people, need care and balance," Zera smiled faintly. "Then perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed." The aftermath. The final droid fell, its systems destroyed by the armor's enhanced energy dispersal. The hall fell silent, the only sound the low hum of the Eternal Veil's power systems. Queen Zera removed her helmet, breathing steadily, her eyes scanning the crowd. "I have seen enough," she said. "The armor performs better than ever. I trust Marcus Hale has my confidence and my protection." Gasps echoed through the hall. The Queen had publicly acknowledged a human, a former slave, as the one who restored and improved her sacred war armor. Some engineers glared, their pride wounded. Others whispered, uncertain how to feel. Marcus stood quietly. He did not celebrate. For him, the real work had only begun. The Eternal Veil was now alive and enhanced. But the war against the Carrick swarm was far from over. Recognition and respect. For the first time, many Valorians began to see humans differently. Marcus's skill, courage, and insight could not be ignored. Soldiers who had once laughed at his size now respected him. Engineers who had mocked his tools now took careful notes. Even the generals, though proud, could not deny the truth. The Queen turned to him once more. "Marcus Hale," she said, her voice carrying authority. "You will remain by my side. Your skill has saved not only the armor, but my life. The Empire may doubt you, but I do not." Marcus bowed, feeling a strange warmth he had not felt in years. For a human among aliens, respect was rare. Trust was even rarer. And yet here it was. Offered not as mercy, but as recognition of his talent. A new beginning as the sun set over Xiron. The Eternal Veil rested in the palace hall, repaired and stronger than ever. Marcus sat quietly nearby, checking power conduits and joint flexibilities one last time. The Queen watched him from a distance, a subtle smile on her face. She knew that war was coming and the Carrick swarm would not wait. But now the Eternal Veil was ready, and the human who repaired it would stand beside her in the battles ahead. In that moment, the galaxy began to change. Humans were no longer weak outsiders. One human with courage and intelligence had proven that even the smallest and most overlooked could reshape destiny. The legend of Marcus Hale, the human who touched the Queen's armor, had truly begun. The sky above Xiron darkened with smoke and fire. Alarm sirens echoed through the city, warning of a threat no one could ignore. Scouts reported the swarm had returned, larger and more relentless than ever. Thousands of Carrick vessels swarmed the upper atmosphere, their weapons glowing red with lethal energy. Queen Zera stood atop her palace balcony, her Eternal Veil gleaming in the pale sunlight. The armor now seemed alive, its energy humming steadily through reinforced conduits and strengthened joints. Beside her, Marcus Hale watched quietly. "This is no drill," Zera said, her voice sharp. "The swarm will not stop until everything we love is gone." "Marcus, are you ready?" Marcus nodded, His hands itched to work to ensure the armor, the queen, and the city survived this attack. "I'm ready, my queen," he replied. The first clash. The Carrick swarm descended like a storm of shadows. Ships twisted through the sky, weapons firing indiscriminately. Explosions rocked the city as shields flared to absorb energy blasts. Soldiers scrambled, but fear was palpable. The swarm had never before been challenged so close to the capital. Queen Zera lifted her visor, the Eternal Veil's sensors activating. Energy thrummed through its reinforced plating, each joint responding with precision. She edged like a predator stepping into the saint. The city of Xiron was still smoking from the battle, the air thick with the smell of scorched metal and alien energy. Fires burned in pockets across the capital, and soldiers worked tirelessly to repair defenses and tend to the wounded. The streets were a chaotic mix of relief, exhaustion, and cautious hope. Queen Zera stood atop the balcony of her palace once more, the Eternal Veil gleaming with renewed strength. Her crimson eyes scanned the horizon, watching for any sign of the Carrick swarm. Beside her, Marcus Hale, now known throughout the Empire as Warborn, stood silently, observing the city below. "This is only the beginning," Zera said softly. "The swarm may retreat today, but they will return." Marcus nodded. "Then we prepare. If they strike again, we will be ready." The Queen's gaze softened. "You have done more than prepare machines, Marcus. You have prepared hearts. My people will remember your name and the way you changed this empire." The council confrontation. The following day, a council meeting was convened. Queen Zera sat at the head of the table, the Eternal Veil standing nearby like a silent sentinel. Valorian nobles, generals, and engineers filled the chamber. Most still bore wounds from the previous battle, their pride shaken and their patience thin. Marcus entered quietly. Some nobles whispered and exchanged uneasy glances, questioning whether a human, an outsider, a former slave, deserved to be present. One general, scales glinting under the hall's lights, leaned forward. "My queen," he said sharply, "this human has succeeded in repairing your armor, yes, but he is not one of us. He is not Valorian. We cannot trust him with power or influence. What if he defies tradition? What if he poisons our ways?" Zera's crimson eyes narrowed. "You speak of fear, not reason. This human saved my armor, saved lives, and held the line when the swarm attacked. His influence comes from action, not birthright, and yet you question it?" The council murmured uneasily. Some nobles' jaws tightened. Others avoided the queen's gaze. Marcus remained silent. He had no desire to speak over the queen. His work and courage were his only defense. A test of loyalty. The queen's gaze turned toward Marcus. "Warborn," she said, her voice low but firm. "You have shown skill beyond most of my people. But now I must see if your loyalty matches your talent. Will you serve this empire willingly, or do you serve only yourself?" Marcus met her eyes steadily. "My queen, I serve what is right. I serve those who fight for their people. That is loyalty enough for me." Some nobles snickered, claiming his words were hollow. Yet Zera did not flinch. She recognized courage and honesty when she saw them. "Very well," she said. "You will remain at my side not because you are a human, but because you have earned it. If anyone questions this, they will answer to me." Gasps rippled through the council chamber. Nobles whispered among themselves. A human given such authority? To sit beside the queen herself? Some clenched their fists in anger. Others stared in disbelief. Marcus earns respect. Over the following weeks, Marcus worked closely with the Valorian engineers, soldiers, and strategists. He improved the armor further, creating new enhancements to protect the queen and her army. He trained soldiers in human methods of efficiency, strategy, and engineering. Slowly, respect began to grow. Soldiers who had once mocked him now looked to him for guidance. Engineers who had scorned his human tools began to study his techniques. Even the generals, proud and stubborn, could not ignore the results. Marcus was not just an outsider. He was a force to be reckoned with. One officer admitted quietly, "I thought humans were weak. But this one, he is stronger than many of us in mind and courage." Marcus did not respond. Praise was not important to him. Action was. Results were. A public display of trust one day, a message arrived from the outer systems. A small swarm fleet had been detected approaching a Valorian colony. The queen decided to test her army and Marcus under real conditions. She summoned him privately. Warborn, I will lead the defense. You will remain at my side and oversee the armor. If it fails, the blame falls on you. Marcus nodded. I will not fail, my queen. The armor will hold. As they approached the colony, the Carrick ships fired relentlessly. Marcus guided the queen's armor systems, stabilizing shields, reinforcing joints, and adjusting energy distribution in real time. The Eternal Veil moved as if alive, faster and stronger than ever. The Carrick fleet faltered under their counterattack. The soldiers, inspired by the queen and the human engineer at her side, fought with renewed courage. Marcus's enhancements allowed the queen to move freely, strike decisively, and survive attacks that would have destroyed her before. By the end of the battle, the Carrick were in retreat. The colony was safe and the Valorians cheered. Marcus did not celebrate. He simply ensured that the armor was intact, that the systems were stable, and that the queen was unharmed. The queen's decision. That evening, back at the palace, the council reconvened. Many nobles still questioned Marcus's presence and authority. Some demanded he be removed, claiming tradition was under threat. Queen Zara silenced them all. I have watched this human work, fight, and lead. He has saved lives, protected my armor, and ensured the safety of our people. He has earned his place beside me not through birth, but through courage, skill, and loyalty. She turned to Marcus. Warborn, will you continue to serve at my side, knowing that many still doubt you? Marcus bowed slightly. My queen, I serve you and the people of this empire. Nothing else matters. Zara nodded, satisfied. Then let it be known. Marcus Hale, called Warborn, is my chief war engineer. He will have full authority over the queen's war machines and armor. Any who oppose him will answer to me directly. The council fell silent. Some bowed grudgingly. Others hid their resentment behind polite expressions. The queen's decision was final. A bond forms. Over the next few days, the queen and Marcus began to form a subtle bond. She watched him work with careful hands, adjusting energy conduits and reinforcing armor plating. She observed his calm under pressure, his quick thinking, and his ability to see solutions where others saw only impossibility. Marcus, in turn, began to understand the queen. Her pride, her strength, her dedication to her people, all were evident in her every action. He respected her courage and intelligence. Though they came from very different worlds, they shared a common understanding. Duty above self, action above words, and loyalty above all. One evening, as the city lights shimmered across the palace walls, Zara spoke quietly. Warborn, you are not like any human I have seen. You understand machines, yes, but also people. You see what others miss. That is rare in any world. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I only do what I must. That is all any of us can do. Her crimson eyes softened slightly. Perhaps that is what makes you extraordinary. The Empire watches. News of Marcus's success spread quickly throughout the Empire. Soldiers spoke of his courage in battle. Engineers whispered of his skill in repairing the Eternal Veil. Nobles grumbled but could not deny the facts. The human had changed the course of the war, and the Queen herself had placed him in a position of authority. The galaxy began to take notice. Word reached distant star systems that a human, a former slave, now stood beside the Valorian queen, influencing the very heart of the Empire. Some were curious, some were fearful, but none could ignore the truth. Marcus had become more than a technician. He was a symbol, a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the potential to rise above expectation. A future together as the sun set over Xiron. The Queen and Marcus stood together in the palace courtyard. The Eternal Veil rested nearby, repaired and ready. Soldiers moved through the streets below, rebuilding and preparing for the next challenge. Zara turned to Marcus, her voice calm but filled with respect. The war is far from over, Warborn, but with you by my side, I believe we can endure anything. You have changed not only my armor but the hearts of my people. Marcus inclined his head. Then we prepare. Together. For the first time, he felt a sense of belonging, not as a human among aliens, but as a trusted ally, a leader, and a protector of the Empire. He had proven his worth, earned respect, and forged a bond with one of the galaxy's most powerful beings. And the legend of Warborn continued to grow. One human, small by appearance but immense in courage, intelligence, and heart. The skies above Xiron burned red with the light of distant stars. signaling that the Karak swarm had regrouped. Reports from the outer colonies warned of a massive fleet moving toward the Empire's heart. The Valorians had faced many threats, but none as relentless as this. Queen Zira stood atop the palace balcony, her eternal veil gleaming under the light of twin suns. The armor hummed steadily, reinforced and enhanced by Marcus Hale, the human who had earned the title Warborn. Marcus stood beside her, calm and prepared. He had spent months improving the armor, training the soldiers and reorganizing defenses. Every minor failure had been studied, corrected, and optimized. The swarm might have thought the queen alone could protect them, but they would soon learn that she had the mind of a human strategist at her side. "This is the largest fleet we've seen yet," Marcus said quietly, scanning the incoming ships on the holomap. "They are organized differently. Faster, more coordinated. If we fail, it could mean the end of the outer colonies." Zera's crimson eyes glimmered with determination. "Then we will not fail, Warborn. Today we show them why the Valorians do Nurender."